Guys, it's Matt. We're going to talk about how I backtest stocks. Let's trade. First, I want to talk about how I got started. A few years ago, I was in a chat room run by Chris Verma. This is his Kinfo page. You can see his all-time stats there. Chris is very data-driven, and being in his room was a pretty big influence for me as far as understanding where the data fits in trading and being able to backtest data and then adjust on the fly as you implement a strategy and then obviously collect more data based on, okay, well, is this working? Is this not? How can we tweak it? How can we make it better? The next person I want to talk about is someone who goes by Day Trading Zoo on X. He was actually in Chris's room while I was there and ended up doing, I can't remember if it was one or a few webinars on Python coding, and he shared a lot of code to the group. Basic code that got us started, but that was really kind of what got me able to start learning Python on my own. And so it was a huge turning point for me in my trading and specifically in my backtesting abilities. This is Day Trading Zoo's current account on X. You can follow him there. I don't know that he puts up much about coding at this point, but still definitely a good follow if you're into that kind of thing. Next, I want to talk about what I use. You can see here I use Polygon.io for data. I use Anaconda, Spider, that's where all the Python goes, and Excel for various other nerdery. This is a peek at the pricing tiers that Polygon offers on its different packages. I usually end up in the stocks developer category there. The $79 a month package gives me what I need. Uh, Really, the biggest step up from there, the stocks advanced, is that it's real time data, but I don't need that quite yet because I'm not running any bots. So all the back testing I do can be done with delayed data, and 10 years of historical data is good for most of what I do. Okay, next, this is just a peek at what Anaconda looks like. It allows me to initiate an environment and then launch Spider, which looks like this. The basics here are you have code that calls Polygon, grabs all the data you need, then that code takes the data, back tests it in whatever strategy you code for, and then spits out whatever results you coded for, right? You can see here that I have a whole host of things there that I want it to return to me at the end of a backtesting run. It also shoots this out to a CSV file. This is what one of the CSV files looks like. It's just a list of all of the trades that were taken during the backtest, the entry, the exit, P&L, target stop, all of that stuff. You can see that this backtest in particular ran right up until the end of last month. And this is the data that I would use to, one, make sure the backtest is working correctly. I would use the most recent instances to look back at charts and go, okay, are we entering at the right place? Are we exiting at the right place? Are we setting stops? Are we moving stops appropriately? All of that kind of stuff. And then once I have confirmed that it's running correctly, then this data is what we use for, okay, how do I implement this strategy? There are times where it puts out a spreadsheet like this, which is these are a summary. Each line here is a summary of one backtest. And so in this spreadsheet alone, there are 72 different backtests based on changing all of the variables that I had coded for in this file. This is helpful when you've got a ton of variables and you're trying to figure out which mix of those variables is going to perform best. It's important not to just pick the top one that just happens to be maybe overfitted for the data set, but instead look for patterns of what works and what doesn't, and then try to solidify your strategy from there. There is one more tool that I use, and that is ChatGPT. If you tell it exactly what you want, ask it good questions, give it any error codes that pop up when you try to run the code, ask it more good questions, and then double check the results to make sure the code that it wrote is giving you the results that you want. It's a really, really useful tool. This code that I showed earlier, this is all ChatGPT. It writes more elegant code than I ever would, mostly again because I'm self-taught and it's not my main, I'm not a coder. It's not my main job. So there are times where you have to really make sure you tell ChatGPT exactly what you want and then kind of work through some problems, but it's going to end up being a lot quicker than you trying to code it on your own. At least in my case, it's definitely a lot faster than trying to code it on my own. This is what a conversation looks like. I start off by telling ChatGPT exactly what I want as best I can, the most detail I can think of. I tell it what data we're going to need to gather. I tell it how the backtest is going to work, what the strategy looks like. And I also tell it what statistics I want sent back to me when the backtest is all done. I'll also often ask, did I miss anything, or does it have any recommendations of other statistics we can run or other tweaks we can make to the code that would make sense? Sometimes it gives some really good answers. But initially, it gave me an entire file that I could just download, open in Spider, and run it. And it ran.
And so you just ran.
It wasn't exactly what I needed right off the bat. Like I said, you usually have to go back and forth for a little bit and tweak some things. You can see here it's been a rather long conversation. Sometimes these problems occur because I made a mistake and didn't tell it what to do. Sometimes it makes assumptions when I leave things out, and then I later learn that those assumptions were incorrect and we should redo something. For instance, one time I didn't specify whether we should be using adjusted or unadjusted data, and it was using the wrong one for a while. And once I realized it, I said, "Hey, we should change this." And then ChatGPT and I had a discussion about why we should use one sort of data over another and came to a conclusion. It was actually really helpful. You can also see that it's super helpful. It's like the best employee you've ever had. It will always ask, after giving you what you wanted, it will ask if you want something else and it'll make suggestions. And it's really good about that. I'm sure there are people out there who are really good coders who are like, yeah, ChatGPT's code isn't that great or it makes a lot of mistakes. And of course it does. It's very early on in the whole AI thing. But for me, its ability to just spit out code that would take me days or weeks in a few minutes is a great tool for me to have and makes backtesting much more efficient, which is why I will have most likely many more videos coming out more frequently because it's just easier for me to do now. It won't take so long for me to backtest things. All right, guys. So if you have questions, throw those in the comments section. If I missed something, let me know. Otherwise, if this was helpful and you feel like maybe it gets you started in the right direction, maybe hit the like button, maybe subscribe if you haven't already. And we'll see you in the next backtest.